Welcome everyone to episode 109 of Raw Sport. My name is Ahmed Al-Houli. We're back with another huge show with the founder of Tasman Fighters, Mr. Mick Francis. Mick, welcome to the show, buddy. How's things?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, thank you. Very busy, as I just mentioned before, but it's this time of the week, come fight week, mate, it's always starting to ramp up.
You got a massive show happening on the Gold Coast. Take us through it, mate. What's
Mate,
going on over there?
It's a great show. Yeah, look, we just want to keep, Jai busy and our fighters active and the Gold Coast on January 8th, the show was amazing. Sold out 3 weeks before actual fight night. Jai's had a couple of broken promises over the last few months, and he wanted the Ramirez fight, and that's still nowhere to be seen. And because Ramirez has taken his mandatory, we thought, well, why not keep Jai active and keep him busy and keep building his profile here in Australia and giving our fighters the opportunity to fight on amazing world title, world-class cards through the zone. So why not, So here we are.
Wow. All right. You've got a huge card. You've got a ton of fights on there. Why so many fights on one card?
Yeah, look, traditionally we don't, world title events and cards of this nature don't have such a large undercard. However, with Tasman Fighters, we don't do a whole heap of shows per year, but the shows we do are quality. So, a part of our deal with all of our fighters is that everyone that joins the Tasman Fighter family has the opportunity to fight on every single card that we put on. They have the right to turn it down, but everyone's offered. So, everyone wants to fight on this card. Everyone sees their profile exploding on such a card because last time we had some good numbers and internationally as well. And as I said, we sold out 3 weeks before actually fight night. So it's all about opportunities, and I talk about opportunities quite a bit. It's these kids in this country, we don't get the opportunities that they do in the UK and the US. So, if we're going to do a show, everyone that's under our banner is included, every single person.
Tasman Fighters, we've heard the name a lot, but how did Tasman Fighters start? I mean, what convinced you to get into such a tricky industry?
Yeah, it's not something I woke up one day and said, I'm going to be a boxing manager / promoter. To be honest, I've known Jai since he's 4 years old. I've supported his dad back in the day. I met his dad. I used to have a pizza shop years ago, and I met his dad back in the day. And he was fighting Solomon Moana, and I offered to help him out, find sponsorship and so forth, and just for friendship. So we did that, and then I had a pretty good relationship with Tap ever since that. And I first met Jai when he was about 4 years old. I went over to Tap's place once, and there was this little snotty-nosed kid at the front door, answered the door, and I can still remember clearly. He had no shirt on. He had a pair of grey tracksuit pants were 3 sizes too small for him. He had no shoes on. Snotty nose, cheeky little bastard. And I walked and I was talking to Tap, and he kept bouncing and kicking me up the arse. And I said to Tap, mate, get this kid off me. He goes, hit him back. I said, mate, I'm not hitting a 4-year-old, mate. He goes, he's all right. And then I said, mate, get him away from me. He's like, like you see out of someone's house and they got a little like a chihuahua or something, just keeps following you around and looking at you and having a snap at you. Anyway, yeah. So he gets him and starts roughing him up. I said, mate, what are you doing? And he goes, mate, I'm preparing him. I said, I'm preparing him for what? And he said, for his world title. And like, here we are now. So like, this sport, Jai's been, bred to fight. It's in his blood. It's in his DNA. With his fourth generation on his dad's side and third on his mum's. He was born for this, but that's how I sort of got introduced to boxing. I've probably been to one boxing event before that, when I was a kid, and then obviously went to obviously went to Taps's fight against Solomon Moana, and obviously that was a tough fight for him. It was a big night at the office, and then I sort of didn't really go to him. Didn't have much to do with it. Anyway, I was having a beer one day with a mate, and I said to Billy, he's Taps' brother, I said, what's going on with Jai? But I did support the family when they did go to the Olympics. But then I sort of, I didn't know much about the sport, and I was just watching from behind the scenes. I knew Jai wasn't very active, so I just asked Tap, and Billy, his brother, if he needed a hand. At the time, I had a business that was doing quite well, and so we met up, and he said, "Yeah, need a hand." So we started sponsoring him, buying tables at his events, and then he wanted us to manage him and then promote him, and one thing led to another. Then I met the Huni family, Justis Huni, the day Manny Pacquiao fought. The Huni family asked me to help their boy out as well, and then it sort of grew from there. So then Liam Wilson came along one day, and he wanted to sign up, and Sam Goodman as well. He did. So we got Sam and Liam going as well. Then Benny Marnie and Conor Wallace. So, if you have a look at the guys that have actually come and asked for help or wanted to be a part of Tasman Fighters from back in the day, they've all done quite well, and they're all good humans as well. So it's not something that I actually wanted to get into, and I didn't really know much about it. It was quite scary, and you meet some interesting characters along the way. But now I'm here. It's I enjoy it. It's in my blood, and I see Tasman Fighters being around for quite a long time. I don't want Tasman Fighters to be here and gone and not really make an impact in the sport in this country. So
yeah.
So
you've got two huge fights in a week, literally.
Oh, absolutely.
You got Huni on the 7th, I believe.
Yeah.
And then you got Jai on the 8th.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you juggling all this?
Yeah, look, it's pinch yourself, story. Like I'm so proud of all the guys. I'm so proud of everyone that fights under the Tasman Fighter ban. Like Jai and Justis in particular. Like, the struggles that we've had with Jai over the years to get him on cards and to find opponents, and from the very first day, Jai was hard to match. Like, no one wanted to get in the ring with Jai unless you pay them money that they deserve, crazy money, and well deserved. But I mean, it's been tough, and we've had no real support. And Jai said in his struggles, and the same with Justis. Like Justis back in the day, we were paying amateurs $3,000 plus flights, accommodation, just to fight Justis over 3 rounds. $1,000 a round, like just to get these guys moving and keeping them going. It's been a struggle, but to see where they are today, and to have both fighters fighting for world titles on the same day within 12 hours apart from each other, Australia time, mate, I couldn't be any more prouder of the boys, and also Tasman Fighters and what we've achieved. And it's with Tasman Fighters, it's not me. It's a joint effort. Like, I couldn't do this without Fran, my partner. Matt Clark's our matchmaker. Like Matt Clark, he doesn't get paid. He does it for love. Amanda Bananos, Amanda's been with us for a very long time. So it's a very small team, but it's tight, and we get the job done.
Absolutely. Huni's literally going into the Lions Den down there at Ipswich. You were there at the football stadium.
Yeah.
Give us a rundown of the atmosphere that you guys are expecting over there.
I think it all sort of hit home when we actually went out there and done the presser, because that stadium was, for a boxing event, just looking around, it's massive. Like they've sold out 25,000 tickets as we speak, so it's going to be huge. Not a lot happens in Ipswich in the UK, so everyone from everywhere and anyone's going to be there. Fabio Wardley's a big name in that part of the UK, so it's a genuine world title against a genuine contender. Like, he's 18-0. It's a fight. If Justis pulls through this fight and wins it, which the way I think he will win this, he should be a national hero. And we've said that about Jai. And unfortunately, and I'll tell you right now, the shit thing about it, the magnitude of this fight, you think about this. He's 12-0. He's 26 years old, fighting in the heavyweight division. He's had a massive amateur career. He's well known in this country to the boxing fans. Mm-hmm. But, mate, the media has not put one word in the newspapers about this. Like, it's a national disgrace. Like, you think about it. Like, he is fighting for a heavyweight world title in the UK in a stadium fight on a Queensbury rehab season And mate, no one knows about it. I got no idea.
Yeah, it's
I
bonkers.
shake my head.
Yeah.
But I mean, Nick Noonan's done a great job. You know, Nick's been a great supporter of Tasman Fighters and boxing for a very long time, and he's he's done his best and tried to promote it. We've done our best, for our own pages and obviously little podcasts like this always help. But the fact that he's 5 days out from one of the biggest fights in Australian history, yet no one knows about it. It's an absolute disgrace. It's on the Zone. Tune in. I think 4 a.m. the broadcast starts. But mate, this is a massive fight, and if he gets this win, this is massive for Australian boxing. Not just Justis Huni. It's massive for Australian boxing, and it just shows that if you give these guys a bit of love and invest wisely, you can get these guys anywhere, and we can match with the best in the world. So mate, I just hope everyone can get behind Justis on Sunday morning our time. And I think, as I said, it kicks off at 4 a.m. the broadcast live on the Zone. I think he'll probably come out around 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. But I mean, he's a generational athlete, So mate, get behind this kid because he deserves it, and he's a good human, So please, and I hope the newspapers pick it up. Channel 9 should be picking it up. I don't know, but someone should pick this bloody thing up.
We wish him all the best. Hopefully he gets through and wins, and it'll be. Don't worry, they will have to pick it up then, especially if he gets through and beats him, because that's a massive win.
Yeah, but it's all over and done with. Like, we need eyes on him now, so tune in and watch him. But it is, look, we'll take any media because we don't get a lot of love, so we'll take any media.
All right, Mick. Speaking of media, Jai Opetaia's easily the best fighter in this country right now, internationally.
Probably ever. There's a call. Probably ever.
Wow, massive. All right.
I know middleweight higher. Yeah, ever.
Okay.
Above the middleweight division, definitely, 100%.
Well, there you go. Massive statement right here on Raw Sport.
Absolutely. Like, you tell me someone that's done what Jai's only getting started. He's 29 years old. Yeah, he would be unified by now if the guys that actually had these other belts grew some balls. It's been open. Jai said many a times that he will take a purse reduction. It's not about money, it's about legacy. He's wanted this WBO belt for a very long time, and he's called out Bill and Smith. Bill and Smith played the game. We went on the UK. We've done a campaign for the UK major media outlets, and Jai doesn't usually do this, but calling out Bill and Smith, and he wants to be a bloody male model, that guy. Anyway, all he wanted to do is, I'll fight him. Yeah, I'll fight him. He's the best. Mate, fight him. He goes, after I fight Ramirez, mate, no way. Fight him now. He missed out on the biggest payday he could have ever had. He fought Ramirez, which is not a massive payday in comparison. You think about Australia versus England, like that would have been a massive, massive fight. However, he lost his chance. So now we're chasing Ramirez. But Jai doesn't care who he fights. He doesn't give a rat's ass. All he wants is these belts. He wants to unify the division, then he wants to go up and then unify the heavyweight division as well. So, it's very, very simple. And saying a big statement about Jai being one of the best Australian fighters ever, mate, honestly, mate, when I say, and respectfully, the Jeff Fenix of the world, like, Jeff done some amazing things. Apart from Jeff, mate, who's better? Who's better? Who's done what he's done and held the belts? You got to remember, he vacated that IBF title. He threw that IBF title in the bin just to chase his dream, and look what happened. He got it straight back. So that's gutsy. That's, what he went through that day where he won that title, broke his jaw on both sides. That was gutsy to do what he did. And like, I don't think there's many fighters in the world that would have done that, So, mate, Jai's a human machine. He's just, you see him, his eyes in the ring, and he's aggressive. But mate, outside the ring, mate, you couldn't get a better bloke, honestly. So I've got a lot of respect for Jai and Justis and all our fighters. But he's superhuman, both of these guys.
Sorry to cut you off, Mick. Why isn't he getting the coverage that he deserves in Australia?
Jai, or Justis, or everybody?
Jai. Let's stick to Jai. Jai's proven himself.
Well, Jai
is on the way up.
Well, mate, at the moment, the locals. He's a Gold Coaster now, which is great. I'm in Cavill Avenue right now. They're actually campaigning. The locals are campaigning right now to build a bronze statue in the middle of Cavill Avenue of Jai Opetaia. And I'm not joking you. That's serious. So, mate, that's how much they love him up here. He won the Gold Coast Athlete of the Year 2 years ago, okay, which is does up against the Olympians, Formula One drivers. Like, honestly, mate, he's a national hero on the Gold Coast, and that's why the Gold Coast, Experienced Gold Coast, is behind this particular event. When I made a phone call to John Warren from the Gold Coast Experienced Gold Coast Council, and I rang him on the Monday. By 3 o'clock that afternoon, we had a contract in front of us, and they want to jump on board. So, he's getting a lot of love around here, but he needs a bit more love nationally and globally. I'll be honest.
Mick, you have a few relationships actually globally with DAZN, with Gold Star, Matchroom. How were you able to make these relationships, and what have they done for you and your stable?
Yeah, we can't do it on our own. We're way too small down here, and you've got to share the love. But Matchroom have come to town, which they're doing some good things. Like I'd like to see them get a little bit more heavily involved in domestic fighting boxing down here in Australia. Look, they've got plans. I know they see it's a really complex market down here, and it's really hard to make things work. But
why? Why is it complex? It's a small market.
Look, you've got the issues with the media, and that's like facts are facts. We have the issues of the media, so it's hard to promote these events. Like this particular event that we're doing, we've got about 30 different content creators, Instagram guys, YouTubers. Like we sort of focusing more along those lines, because those lines that we can rely on.
The internet.
So we're relying on that. Fox, to their credit, are going to get involved in this particular event, which I'm really happy about. I'm really proud of the fact that they are wanting to do some stuff with boxing outside of their events. So that's exciting, and the partnership between DAZN and Foxtel is exciting for this part of the world. But we just don't have the population, and that's facts. Like it's hard. Jai sells out a 6,000 seat stadium in a matter of weeks, which it's not an overnight success. Like we've been working at this for a very, very, very long time, and Jai's done a lot of great things around the world, and Riyadh season was a blessing, obviously. So, it's hard because the venues are expensive and they're hard to get. Like you got to book virtually 12 months in advance, and because of that, they are expensive. The broadcast costs are crazy, but they are what they are. We can't get around it, and we try and work off our relationships with our suppliers. And I wish that we could come in and we could put on amazing shows regularly, build more fighters, but you can't. And you've just got to focus on a small team and invest in them. But we just struggle to put on major events here in Australia because of, unless we have government support, obviously. Like government support, like Cambodia has done a couple of great shows, which were awesome. With the Manny Pacquiao and Jeff Horn show was probably one of the best sporting events Australia's ever seen. I was there. I was probably about four rows from ringside. I think that was something that really kicked off boxing in this part of the world. I know, speaking to a lot of guys and a lot of gyms, that after that particular fight, every gym was full of kids. So I hope that Jai can make these kids dream as well, and hopefully turn to boxing as a career. And because it is a good career if you can nail it, but it's a tough road. It's a very, very tough road.
We have a lot more activity now in the boxing world with links with overseas like yourselves and others.
Yeah.
And Foxtel's doing a lot more with their local cards.
Yeah.
DAZN, the broadcaster that will be televising your fight, acquired Foxtel. So we might be seeing a bit more boxing related content and activities in the boxing media market, hopefully over the next 12 months. But what are your plans over the next 12 months? What's the future look like for the Tasman Fighters?
I don't know, mate. We just one show at a time, just like the fighters. It's just one fight at a time. Spencer Brown. I've got a massive call out to Spencer Brown from Gold Star. That's Tyson Fury's manager. Very close, very good friend. He's obviously been a breath of fresh air in this part of the world. Like, he's invested heavily into boxing in this down here in Australia. Like, he's really got behind Jai. And Jai's, to be quite frank, mate, he's the reason Jai's on Riyadh season. He is the reason that Riyadh season's even here. So, people don't know the story, and I'm not going to bore you today, but the story that Spencer tells and the way the whole thing came about is quite amazing. And it could have went either way at one stage, but mate, here we are, and Riyadh season's here. It's real, and it's changed a lot of lives, and it'll continue to change a lot of lives for a little while yet. And they put on the best shows and the biggest shows the world has ever seen. So I don't think anyone will be able to match this ever, what they've done over the last 2 years. So, but yeah, look, Spencer Brown's is a massive shot in the arm down here for us, Tasman Fighters. He's over there looking after Justis as we speak, which is great. But moving forward, as we say, we do one show at a time. It takes a while to get through a show, and Fran's been on a computer for 2 months, struggling to get out of her pajamas, virtually putting food under her nose. She honestly, because she just does not leave that computer. And it's only, as I said, it's only a very, very small team, but we do some amazing stuff for the guys we have. But mate, I'd probably hope to do 1 or 2 more shows by the end of the year. We'll just see what happens.
Mick, you got a massive fight night coming up on the Gold Coast. Give us the details where people can watch it, where people can buy tickets. Yeah.
So it's a great undercard, as we did mention a bit earlier. We've got Conor Wallace, and I've got to mention Conor Wallace. Like, mate, he says it himself, there's no show like a Conor Wallace show. Well, this time Conor's on this show, and he had a bit of mofo after January 8. He came down and did a little bit of stuff with the commentary and so forth, but he was spewing. I know he was dirty, and he couldn't wait to jump on this card. As you know, Conor's number 2 in the IBF, and he's waiting to have his chance to fight for a world title. So, it is risky. And this guy, and I said to Conor, I said, mate, I can't afford to give you a stiff. Like, this is a progression fight. There's no way it's a stay busy fight. If you think it's a stay busy fight, mate, I can't do it, because a card like this, deserves the respect of a world-class card and world-class fights. So, Steve Della was all for it, which was great. Steve's been a massive help to Conor's career since he's been in Australia. So we found this guy. Matt Clark found this guy over in France. He's 14-1. He's only ever been beaten once on a Riyadh season. So that tells you that he can box. So you got 15-1 against 14-1. Stats are very similar. So I think it's going to be a cracking fight. It's only over 8 rounds. So you're going to see a war. It's going to be a sprint, and mate, he's kind of sold half the venue out. Like the Green Army always come out for Conor Wallace, and the room's going to be rocking come co-main.
Mick, who else should we look out for on June the 8th?
Mate, everyone that's signed by Tasman Fighters, mate. I'd say it's a very exclusive club.
Come on, Mick. Give us a few more names. Let's go.
We don't take everyone. We only take people that, number 1, can fight. Number 2, are good humans. That's what we look for, mate. Max McIntyre. I think he's one for the future. Like, is he 8-0 at the moment? He's a knockout artist. We can't match him. He's 20 years old. 20 years old, and the stuff that he's doing is just blowing me away. Like, myself and Jai even talk about him at times. And, like, you look at Jai, what he was doing at 20 years old. Mate, Jai was fighting guys at bloody pubs and clubs, and not even getting a purse. And mate, Max McIntyre's fighting international opponents consistently on massive cards and knocking them all out. So he's going to be a superstar in the future. We don't want to go too hard right now. There's a lot of talk about Rushton. Mate, he's a light heavyweight. Max is a super middleweight. He's 20 years old. He doesn't need it. Like, mate, if he goes to light heavyweight, absolutely. But we don't need that fight just now. Like, he's 20 years old, and we just need to, as I keep saying, mate, show him a little bit of love and progress his career. That whole stable is a good stable from Shape Up. They're all good boys out there. Xavier Fletcher, mate, he's a bit of a showman. He's always going to call out anyone and anyone. He wants to he wants to smoke right now. Like, he'll fight Zerafa tomorrow if you let him, So I don't think Zerafa would fight him, but it's a fight that we would do. I've put it to Matt Rose. I'd love to see a 5v5 Tasman Fighters versus No Limit. That'd be something that a lot of Australia would have interest in. They can choose any fighters they want against any of my guys. I've got about 8 fighters. It's a 5v5, so they can pick five of my fighters. They can match them with anyone they want to match them with from their stables. It doesn't matter what, as long as they're in their own divisions, doesn't matter what venue, doesn't matter where it's at, doesn't matter what platform, mate. We'd love to do a 5v5, and I think Australia would really get behind that. So, that's something for the future. Hopefully we can do that at the back end of the year. Who knows? So, there's some exciting things that could be done in Australian boxing right now. We just need to, start working with each other and trying to help each other out.
Very, very important that we all work with each other. Can't see it happening.
Yeah. And we've got big Terra Moana. Terra Moana's on the card. Like, he's always an exciting, fighter. He's
Let's talk about him, actually.
He's a big slugger. Like, they wanted 6 rounds to this card, and I said, no, you're 4 rounds, because I wanted, we've got to fit everyone on. And they said, no, we want 6 rounds. I said, well, you're not on the card. Why do they want 6 rounds? Mate, I don't think anyone's ever seen the bell after the 2nd round. You know what I mean? Like, he's not... Mate, the last fight we brought him on, we got a guy from Germany, which was 11-1. Mate, the guy's all right. I think it's 30 seconds. Well, come on, guys. Give me a couple of rounds. Yeah. So, he's exciting, and there's some big things for him in the future as well. Tyler Blizzard, he's going to do some amazing things as well. He's been a little quiet, but, we're going to get behind him. And Benny Marnie, we spoke about Benny Marnie earlier. Like, Ben's one of those guys that we signed Ben quite a few years ago. And he was, we had big plans for him. And the fact that I'm on the Gold Coast and he's on the Gold Coast. And I first, when I spoke to him, I wanted to make him like, Gold Coast, favourite son, the golden boy, all this sort of stuff, and really build his profile up down here on the Goldie. And mate, I don't know, as always, mate, people see a little bit of limelight, everyone gets in their ears. There's the grass is always greener. So he's done the rounds. He's found out it ain't so green. And I had a chat to him a couple of months ago, and I said, mate, you're 29 years old. I will be serious with you if you're serious with me. So, and we're investing in him heavily, because this particular fight, we got a guy out from Venezuela. He's a very, very big puncher, and the Venezuelans, they always come to fight. They're fighting for their lives, and we're fighting for the IBF Intercontinental. So, for those that don't know what the Intercontinental means, it means that with whoever gets their hand raised at the end of this fight will go into the rankings of the IBF, or the super welterweight division, and they're on their way. So it's an expensive belt. It's regarded as the second highest belt in the IBF. They don't have an interim title. They have the Intercontinental. So it's regarded as an extremely good title, and it's hard to apply for these titles. We've applied for them before in the past, and we've been knocked back. But it's a title that gets you guys moving in the division. So mate, yes, we've got big things for Benny. We're going to invest heavily, and maybe on the 5v5 we have Nikita versus Benny Marnie. Who knows?
Nikita Zoo?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Why not? Why not? That's a fight Australia would love to see, but who knows?
Mick, what's the sport missing in this country? You said the population is small, but there's population small.
Characters. We need a Tyson Fury.
Whoa, Tyson.
We need a Tyson Fury. Yeah. Look, we've had some characters over the years. We got a lot of knockers. I think Max McIntyre. I think that whole camp there. I think they've all got a lot to offer. But we've got a lot of knockers in Australia. Like, I'm getting knocked right now. I can tell you now. Like, everyone's. Who cares? Like, who gives a rat's ass? Everyone needs to pull their heads out of their own arseholes and have a think about their own backyards, and not being, keyboard warriors and trying to fucking, chip it, take chunks out of people. Like, seriously. Like, I've never been in the boxing ring, so you'll never see me disrespect a fighter, ever. I've never put shit up on social media. Mate, there's promoters out there in Australia right now they put fucking shit on social media against young athletes. Like, who the fuck are they? Seriously.
Yeah.
So, you know, Max McIntyre has been trolled by by promoters. Like, it's just bullshit. And he's 20 years old. Pull your heads out of your arseholes, guys. So mate, yeah, look, we're missing characters. We need to let people be themselves. So, that's what we're missing, mate. And we can build the sport. And the other thing we are lacking is professionalism. Like, when you see a weigh-in, like, yeah, I work off, I work off the NRL and the AFL model. Like, how do you attract sponsors to the sport? Not by pushing each other and swearing on cameras,
No.
not by getting in on a Fox show and talking smack. Especially if you're an undercard fighter. Like, show some respect. Like, how do you get big corporation to want to invest in that garbage?
How?
You'll never. Oh, well, mate, you got to raise the level of respect. Like, you've just got to. You got to bring some professionals. The thing about boxing, it's the Wild West, and there's no overriding body. If someone in the NRL or the AFL or Australian Rugby Union, Australian Cricket, whoever, if someone carried on and spoke the way they did on camera, on their platform, the way that some people do, mate, they would be fined. They'd be fined. They'll be suspended. When it comes to boxing, it seems to be acceptable, but it's not acceptable. Like, it doesn't sell them, and Australians can see through that bullshit. So you don't need to push each other at the weigh-in. You don't need to talk smack. Show some respect. Be respectful. Get out there and do your thing. But I mean, that's what we're lacking. We're lacking characters and respect in the sport. But everyone does their own thing. So it's the Wild West. So people have been trying to change this sport for a very long time, but it's always going to be the Wild West. So does anyone want to sponsor?
Mick, professionalism is one thing, but at the moment we have a core group of promoters who are really doing their thing. I mean, you guys
mate, we've got some great promoters out there.
doing
We have
some
some
good things.
working hard.
Yeah, No Limits doing some good things. You got Ace.
No Limit's done some great stuff over the years. They have done some really good stuff, and you can't take it away from them. Like, what they've done with Tim Zhu, was amazing. Obviously, Tim, had that loss, which it is what it is. It's called boxing. They've done some great stuff. Look, Foxtel, the home of boxing. It's been the home of boxing in Australia for the last 30 years. I'd love to see more shows on Foxtel because they can put on a really great show. The smaller promoters, it's a struggle. They're doing their best. They get knocked as well. But, mate, Jamie Meyer, he does some really good stuff up here on the Gold Coast as well. So, Lyndon Hoskins was doing some good stuff down in Melbourne, but he sort of ran out of his mojo. But, there's some good promoters, and they do it for love. It's not about the money. It'd be lovely to go into these events and say, oh, yeah, I'm going to make, 20, 30, 50, 100 grand. It'd be amazing. But, promoters go into these events thinking, mate, am I going to lose my fucking shirt? Like, that's like anything that's in the blacks are positive, and they do it for the love. And I can tell you, mate, we've done it tough as well. Like, we've done a lot of shows over the years, and we haven't really been overly successful financially. We've invested a lot of money into this sport, but we're still here and we're not going away. We're not going anywhere. And like Jai, we just keep, working, doing the work behind the scenes and showing commitment.
Mick, we last week we recently had arguably the best fighter on the planet on our shores.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The media didn't really embrace him.
No, they didn't. Look, Tazzy Brown, hats off to Tazzy Brown. Like, mate, you talk about someone that's got a set of balls, mate. Tazzy Brown, like, doing what he did and bringing him out, and there was no promises out here, and it's just sort of on a, just a hope and relationship driven, I suppose. But he did what he said he was going to do it, and he did what he said. So, hats off to Tazzy Brown, and look, he's a great fighter. He's one of the world's best fighters, no doubt. And Bud Crawford, like, he's one of the world's best. But I think timing was probably not great. I know I did something. I just had a luncheon with a few sponsors on the Tuesday, but on the Wednesday was the State of Origin in Brisbane in the same town, and a lot of my guys I reached out to had already committed to luncheons for State of Origin. So it's hard, Timing probably wasn't great, but look, I think he done a great job, and it was good to see such talent come to Australia and say good day.
Absolutely. All right, Mick, you've been very, very generous with your time. We need to wrap things up.
Absolutely. I'm in trouble.
Any
I've
parting
got heaps of
words?
stuff to do, mate. I've got so much to do.
Any parting words?
No. Look, for yourself and Raw Sports, you're doing some great work, and
Thanks,
without guys like yourself, we struggle to build this sport. Like as I said, I invited you to our event. As I said, like we've got about 40 of guys like yourself coming to our show, and I want to see. You go to the UK, there's hundreds of guys like yourself, and even Riyadh season and so forth, and they invest in their own little podcasts. But mate, if we can encourage people to get behind boxing and report on boxing and doing their little podcasts, like it's all good for the sport, and it's going to help grow the sport and to a level where these participants can actually be proud of what they're doing and be proud of the sport that they've chosen. So there's a lot of work to do, but I'm sure over the next couple of years, with the relationship between DAZN and Fox and the work that No Limit are doing, and then Tasman Fighters, I'm sure that, and the investment of Matchroom and Gold Star. So I think we're on the right track. I hope. Fingers crossed.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mick Francis, founder and director of Tasman Fighters. Thank you very much for joining me on Raw Sport.
No worries, mate. Thanks. All the best. See you guys.